Good evening. Thank you for joining us for Conversations Live, right here on YouTube, on Facebook, and on True Life Broadcasting Network in the United States. They are our newest collaborators, and you can find them at www.tlbn.org. In studio with me today is a very special guest. His name is Francisco Maroto. He will introduce himself a little later on, but I want to share a few things with you. In the final 15 minutes of this program, you will have the opportunity to pose your questions, and we will do our best to answer them. Also, this is the program where ordinary people share their extraordinary stories, and it is our hope that you will be inspired, educated, and also develop a sense of persistence and resilience to meet the challenges that you face in your personal lives, in your family, or in your work life. So, thank you so much for being here. This is the first time, and this time it's going to be even better. Now, I am your host, Desrine McFarlane, and as I said, I have in studio a friend of mine, Francisco Moroto. I will ask you now, Fran, to introduce yourself to our audience. First, I must welcome you. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Des. Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor for me to be here and to be part of this great set of programs that you're having. As you mentioned, my name is Francisco Maroto. I live in Costa Rica, raised and born here. And I have been, let me tell you an anecdote first before I tell you and the audience about my story. In November of last year, I was doing some interviews for MBA students that were in the final stage of their program. And in what I was doing in those interviews was preparing them for real life interviews with companies. And my first question to them was, tell me about yourself. And eh, most of them started by telling me about their studies, about their professional experience, things that, as you and I know, being in HR, we can read from a resume, right? So,
So,
in my final advices to them at the end in the feedback section, I was telling them, when I ask you this question about telling me about yourself, look that I made an open question. And what I was looking for is to know about you as a person in
mhm.
your personal side, because the other part that you were telling me, I already had pretty much the information there. So is what I want to start by telling me about myself. And then I am as I mentioned, a Costa Rican. I have a daughter, a 16-year-old daughter. Um, I was married for more than 20 years, and my wife passed away like a year ago. I have been working in HR for more than 20 years, multinational companies. Now, since last year, working on my own as an HR consultant. I like sports. I like every kind of sports. You can ask my family about it, that they might be might go nuts because I am watching baseball, then I'm watching soccer, then I'm watching tennis, then I'm watching basketball. I like all kind of sports. I would have liked to play it myself professionally, but I didn't make it. But in the meantime, I enjoy playing some tennis and soccer and some other things. Um, and I am more than glad to share with you here something about my story. And for all the people there, if at least one person in the audience can feel inspired and from my story, I will be more than glad with that result.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I remember that time when you introduced your family and you were in some kind of outfit that shows that you love sports, right? So great. So since our topic is life, love, loss, and lessons learned. So let's begin with life. Tell us a little bit about your childhood. Was there anything in your childhood that prepared you for the man to be the man you are today?
Yeah, and reflecting on that, I would say that every situation, every year, it was in preparation for the man that I have become through the time. And maybe the first, I would say, 12 to 13 years of my life, I know now that it was a privilege, but I had that privilege of being with both my parents, with my brother and sisters. I am the oldest one of four. Um, and these first years were pretty much about studying in a public school and also playing,
Yeah.
going out of the house and playing with. My brother is 2 years uh, younger than me, so we were very close, and in those activities about, around sports and going out to the park, etc. Now I know that it's a privilege that we had,
Hmm.
uh, and we didn't have to worry about the cooking and about the cleaning the house and everything. My parents have been uh, always on top of that, and I have learned that was a first lesson that I learned from them and from my grandparents about, you know, being responsible, being in charge of the things, being at the service of other people. And I
Hmm.
have learned that, and I think it's part of our DNA in our family, in serving others and being useful for others.
Ah, that's great. And you talked about the importance of education. You also talked about having fun as a child. That was important, and then being taught to be responsible. And some persons may be wondering why we're calling each other Fran and Des. We've known each other for a while, right? We've known each other for a while. So, would you mind talking about how we came to know each other? Share a little bit with our audience about how we came to know each other.
Sure. Well, with all it, and before going there, I told you that it was pretty much that traditional life after my 12, 13 years of age. And after that, it started a series of events that it made me, and it has made me going through changes a lot. And I have been in the need of adapting to changes quite a lot. So by that age, I was thinking about becoming either a professional athlete or an airline pilot or a IT engineer, even though in our time at that moment, let's say the late 80s, there were not that many computers or anything around. So I was looking in myself into those environments, but we had the chance to meet being us in the HR environment when I studied at the end industrial engineering. So might be not exactly like something scheduled to happen that way. And
Mhm.
but with the decisions, with those changes through time, the life has led me to go, for example, in with that education in industrial engineering, knowing people, knowing managers from companies, to be able to join a multinational company like GlaxoSmithKline in the HR department. And when I joined that department, never have worked in a multinational company. Previous to that, I used to work in very small ONGs and small organizations with no more than 3 to 5 employees. Then I joined Glaxo with a big staff and everything. An HR department. I remember the boss that I was having at that moment. That before I joined, he gave me a book. It was a Dave Aldrich book. I didn't know who Dave Aldrich was. Now I know that he's an HR guru. And that book, it was about the HR dashboard. And he told me, "Hey, Fran, please read it before you join the company." And when I started reading it, I started it one over and over, like 3 or 4 times. I couldn't go more than 70 pages into it because I didn't understand a thing, you
Mhm.
know. And but that was the level of challenge and the level of change that I needed to face because I was then going into a position where I couldn't apply anything yet because it was an HR department, and 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 then it was about learning everything.
Mhm.
So that helped me and that experience in Glaxo about knowing, starting to know about compensation, about organizational development, about recruiting, about the labor relations, etc., prepare me, I think, like an armor to go and then to take a job in 3M as a HR manager many years later as HR manager for 3M Central America
Mm-hmm.
in back in 2011. Back by 2012, we were told that we were going to merge with the Caribbean region. Um, so it started the process, and then it was in 2013 when we met
Mm-hmm.
uh, as part of the HR department for the new region of Central America and the Caribbean. And it was that challenge of going through that process of merging the two subregions with all the challenges of the different cultures in the countries, the different realities that the countries were facing. And that was us uh, starting to work together and building a new team from scratch and learning by doing in the and facing the challenges, because it was, as all of these changes happen, it is one day you are with the Caribbean region, next
Mm-hmm.
day you are part of a new region, and let's go and continue. The show has to continue and business as usual.
Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing that. It shows the level of transitions, the many transitions that you've had from what you studied versus what you're doing now. And life does throw us opportunities, right? It does throw up a lot of opportunities. And if you perhaps had said, well, I'm an engineer, I don't want to try HR, I would not have the opportunity to have worked with an awesome HR person. I really think you are, right? I
Thank
really
you.
think you are. So, as we talk about challenges, can you share with us some of the challenges of HR leadership or leadership in general? What are some of the challenges, and how have you gone about overcoming them?
Yes, for sure. There are many, and back in those initial times when I started working in HR, since I was studying uh, more in the looking for production environments and going, actually back in those years in the late 90s in Costa Rica, it was being established, the Intel facility here, a huge manufacturing plant with more than 22,000 employees. So many of the people that were students of industrial engineering at that time, we were looking forward to go into Intel. Um, but it happened that in those changes, you don't prepare to really learn about what is managing people, what is HR most of the time about. So when I joined Glaxo in the HR department, I look for courses in another university, like a small technical degree in HR. Okay, I want to go from base zero to know what persons and people is studying HR phase. So I started there, and I looked from the program in that university that the reality compared to that theory, it was not that similar in all the senses, but that was having a good school at the company, but it was a good baseline of knowledge that I was having. So where I'm coming, that most of the challenges are related of managing people, relating to others, things that you as a leader you need to develop. You need to be aware that is not necessarily just that academic
Mm-hmm.
degree that I'm getting. Is about developing that sense of awareness, sensibility, communication with your people, that you are going to develop the trust, the credibility, and the engagement with your people to actually go against any challenge and try to come with the best results for the company. So it's not just the knowledge. The knowledge is going to be applied, but we need to have those human skills in a very good level to be able, as leaders, to be effective.
That is so true. I think that competence is one thing. It's one thing to have, an academic record, something that shows that you have studied something. But when you're in a role as HR, as you say, you need those listening skills, the communication skills, empathy, and understanding people and trying to engage them in a meaningful way. Trust, respect, those kind of things are priceless, and they are the hardest things to learn. They're
Yeah, and
the hardest things to learn, yes.
I love the name of your firm with the legacy part, because I have always told people that it's about that. How do you want to be remembered when you leave a company? Is that what is your legacy to that to those individuals? And because you are, as a leader, you are impacting the people that is around, and not just with your decisions, when with the words that you are using, you are impacting people also with your behavior, with your nonverbal communications, with everything. So
Mhm.
we can impact people, let's say, not in a positive way, with and the people would learn from that. But I think we should aim to impact them in the best positive way in their lives.
Absolutely. And that is the idea behind legacy, is to do something that will live on long after I'm gone, to develop people, to grow people, to help leaders be a better version of themselves. Because we just talk about those soft skills, those people skills that are so essential for good leadership, for effective leadership. And that is what is missing sometimes. The education is one thing, but if we are not able to relate to people in a meaningful way, our legacy will not be what we really want it to be. And that is, we came, we conquered, and now we're asleep. And our
Yeah.
legacy lives on, our work lives on. Thank you so much, Fran. So let's talk now a little bit about love and loss. And I know that this is a deep part for you. I recall, when you introduced us to your family, you also introduced us to your wife, and you told us even then in 2013 that she was not well. So could you just take us a little bit, as much as you want to share, about love and loss?
Sure. And is for me an honor, and also a privilege to share about this. And back reflecting on those times, we were married in the year 2000. In the first days of January, maybe people might think, hey, you were waiting for Y2K, if something was going to happen, to see if you are going to get married or not. But luckily we were able to survive, and then to get married. By that moment, I was, and you can do the math then on my age, but I was at that moment like 25. She was 24. And we met 4 years before that. And actually, I was thinking on those times, and I said, "Oh, we were like in a rush, and no one was putting pressure on us on those days to make
Mhm.
decisions, but we were like very straightforward in those things." I met her in August, in July '96, and we became a couple in August, and by November, just 2 months later, uh, she traveled with her family to the U.S. His father was being transferred to the U.S., and she was not going to live with them for the long run, but she was going to spend the first few months with them. So we started dating. We were together a couple of months, and then she left for 4 months. So by January, February of the next year, we had been more apart than together in the relationship, but we were very close in the communication, even though at that time there were no phones. It was still most of his people didn't use email. It was by just sending, like
Letters.
in the past, letters through the postmail, right? So, and for myself, I thought at the time, okay, in January, hey, I'm going to go visit her on February of that year. And I went, and we went to have dinner. And I remember it was February 14, Valentine's Day in many
Mm.
countries. And as a celebration, I told her, if we are going to be together, it's because we are going to think on getting married. Imagine us at with 22 and 21 at that moment. That's why
Yeah.
I right now I think it's crazy when I see that my daughter can be in 5 years thinking on that. So I don't want to go through that so soon. But we were doing that at that moment, and she said yes. And then from there we started on planning and building a relationship uh, through that goal. We got married in the year 2000, and I told you a few minutes ago about how unexpected changes came into my life at different stages,
Mhm.
and it happened also with our relationship. In the year 2002, I changed. It was when I started the job in GlaxoSmithKline, but we had also a very difficult time when we lost a baby, uh, a 6 weeks old baby. Um, it was a very sad moment that I still remember very well. And but we moved forward, and we kept with the idea of having a child. She started in a very difficult process because it was because of something in her body that she couldn't get pregnant.
Mhm.
We made it by the year 2004, and in March 2005, Diana, our daughter, was born. Um, so by that time, it was all happiness, all everything okay. But just 1.5 years later, by November 2006, uh, my wife and I, we were in a trip to LA, to Los Angeles in the US. It was supposed to be like a 6 or 7 days trip, and my brother and his wife lives there, so we were visiting them, and I was taking a course over there. And by the end of the trip, we were close to the end of the trip. She started to feel uh, strange. I remember one morning where she couldn't get up off the bed. She started losing her vision from one side to the other, and it was all happening very fast. Uh, we took her to the hospital, and it was very difficult because we were not told about what was happening. And the trip of 6 or 7 days, it was transformed in a trip of over like a month. And where the first 10 days in the hospital, she was like not being able to speak or to see it, and we were not told what was happening. She started like having like seizures and things like that. She started to come back, and we were able to come back to Costa Rica, and the diagnosis was not clear, just because there were happening the seizures. We started with a neurologist back in Costa Rica, and he started making tests and everything. But we spent years without having a clear diagnosis, just her having medication, but with different episodes. Uh, where she might have small seizures, and sometimes uh, uh, big enough to take her to the hospital. Some other times we were able to manage those at home. But it was then uh, a time of uh, change for us in building the new dynamic for us, for the family, and with a small kid. Diana was a year and a half old by the time, and there is where that adaptability, that positive thinking on the things, I think became more strong by the time, because because of the events, she started losing some abilities that for her, even for her and for many of us, are basic, such as getting dressed by herself, being able to cook, and to do all the daily activities that we do. And she started to lose that, and she was being conscious on that. And as the years went by, we didn't have like very a good clarity from the doctors of what was going on. By and then a new challenge in back in 2015 when working at 3M, we were told on the opportunity of moving to Panama.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it was all about, okay, are we taking the opportunity? Are we going to do it? Her reaction at the beginning was no, but then she said yes. And it was, I think, a leap of faith on going there by the three of us. Diana, by the time, was 10 years old. My wife has had, during those 10 years, some other events with some sequels on her brain and in her different capabilities. But she was brave and she was strong in supporting that, and we moved to Panama in March of 2015. By the end of that year, she had a very strong event with a lot of seizures, very difficult, and it was an event that I think uh, it will where changed her the most in her behaviors, in her capabilities, and but it was a blessing, because we were able to find a doctor there that he diagnosed her correctly. She had what is called MELA syndrome, that is a rare disease, and it's called a rare disease because there are very few cases in the countries, and there is little information about treatments, about how to proceed. But this doctor in Panama, he was able to. He already saw cases like those in the past, so he made the right calls on her process, and we were able to fine tune better the support for her, the medication. Imagine that she was taking an anti-seizure medication for 10 years, that when you read the documentation related to MELA syndrome, it is completely off the record to take that medication. And she was taking it for 10 years. So it was adjusted. And during the years there from for her after 2006, there were like cycles of every 5 years with big strokes and big events. We came back to Costa Rica in 2017, and everything was going very smooth. Uh, the key was to keep her stable in her emotional side, with the medication, etc. But again, all of a sudden event happened, a new change, and actually almost a year ago, by May 2020, in just a matter of hours, she started to complicate, she started to feel bad, and she passed away on May 15 last year.
Mm. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. It must have been difficult to stay strong for her and for your family during that time. Um, what kept you hopeful? What kept you going during that time?
It's a great question, Des, because even though she had those events and she started to lose some cognitive capabilities and some other, uh, but she was very conscious on what she was able to do in the past and what she was not able to do anymore. So in the first years, I remember she was like getting like down and sad and telling me, "Hey, this is not fair for you. I'm not the person that you married, and and you deserve someone else." And I said, "No,
Mm-hmm.
we made a promise to each other back then on being together in, I don't know how it's in English, but about in health and in
Sickness
sickness."
and in health.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the time for us to face sickness, and we are together on this, and it's not always my think it was that it's not, this is not only hers, this is
Our.
our situation to face. And I think after a while she erased that fear and that thinking that I would deserve something different. and she felt like being free from that, and she enjoyed life at the fullest, and I think she was very happy to her final day.
She was happy. I have to say, I see some persons who are saying for better, for worse. And I think that's a good part of the story where you spoke about, you made a vow. You made a vow to her and to your family, and you were in it for the vow, for the long haul. It
Yes,
was meaningful. And this is a lesson for many persons. When things get difficult, it's not time to bail on the other person, even if the person feels a bit guilty about your circumstance. It is for you to help that person. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm sure that somebody was encouraged by your story, and it was really brave to share. And
and yeah.
mhm,
Sorry to interrupt this, and by that time we were working together, if you remember, because it was
mhm,
2015,
yes,
and when that big event happened to her. Because one lesson for me, that's something that I want to share with everybody, is that it's not about having the excuse not to comply with something.
hmm,
Because I could have easily go to you guys and say, hey, you know what? I'm having this personal situation. I cannot do it. And maybe for sure we might need more flexibility, different arrangements, more comprehension from everybody. And I had it from all of you and
yes,
everyone involved. But I never had her situation as an excuse not to
yeah.
be available, not to perform, not to try to comply with all the situation in my life.
Absolutely. And, this is a very emotional part of the story. But I also want to say that is so true that we knew what you were going through because you were open about it. But at the same time, you were doing what you needed to do. And sometimes that is what balances out life. If you just take yourself away from the situation sometimes and focus on something different, it is also helpful. I think that was helpful to you to still have something else to do other than, and something else to think about, because it can be consuming when you love someone and you see them going through a very difficult time. So I really want to commend you for this is a great example of leadership as well, and that's another of legacy as well. That gives a clear message to your daughter about what commitment really means to us who are going through it with you, and watch you still try to inspire us and to travel to the different countries and engage the employees and share your story. That's the other thing, that you were open to sharing with us your story. And Fran, not many leaders do that. Not many leaders are open to share their story. You're a real person. Leaders are real people with real
That's right.
issues. Yeah.
Yeah, and she passed away on a Friday afternoon, and even though I had all the possibilities from the company to go on an off period on a license, and my daughter too. Um, During that weekend, I talked with my daughter about it, and remember that it was the time when all the countries there were these many restrictions, all the confinement and everything.
Not down.
So even though we were might not go to a place to work or head to the school, if we don't do anything, uh, by the time it was, maybe for us it was like being worse, because there was no place to go,
Mm-hmm.
or to distract or anything. So she decided, my daughter decided, no, you know what, that I'm going to continue with the virtual school. I still join some of the activities at work, maybe the most important ones. And it was because of that, of what you mentioned about having that escape
Mm-hmm.
area, escape distracting activities and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But uh, but definitely going through our process uh, of moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And because our motto at the time was that that our wife and mother, she was proud of us on continuing with our lives.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that is important. I do have friends right now who are lost, and that's what I'm sharing with them as well. That the person who is lost would want you to continue, would want you to press on with life and live your life. Fran, I want to say thank you so much for being so open and being so vulnerable. Other people need to hear it and they need to see it. So that because sometimes persons are going through nothing even close to what you've been through, and everything is lost, and they're learning that you can still be resilient and be committed at the same time. You can still be a professional and go through personal issues at the same time, and you can learn to balance those two so that you have, your mental health is protected. Thank you so much. So now I really want to go into what you're doing now. I know we're shifting. So
Yes.
we're going to talk about what you're doing now. So want to tell us a little bit about your career now? What are you doing?
Every section is about starting with an unexpected change. And it was also a change that came in 2020. Even though I have those ideas uh, of doing different things for a while, I was not that active on really developing them and putting them on real plans. But by the fourth quarter of last year, at the beginning in October, I uh, ended working for 3M, and it was that period of if the people did the math on my age, they could knew that it is they can know that it's not exactly that I am a young guy starting my career or something. So, but it was that decision on, okay, what to do. Do I try to join another company, or do I really go into the plans that I was having uh, for a while? And it was going through that second path that is not an easy path, and you know very well about it, but it's I think a most rewarding and satisfactory path on developing your plans, on
Mhm.
building from scratch, from zero, just from the idea in your head to something that is happening in real life. And so I'm now working as an HR consultant. I have learned through time about the importance you were mentioning before about the impact of the leaders, etc. For me, it's a key thing for every company. It doesn't matter the size, and for the young guys that might be studying at college and they are starting to work in their professional lives and they are looking forward to grow in the future, be very conscious about developing those human skills and becoming the leader that you would have want to that you might want to have, and be you the example on that. And I'm working now. I have a certification on a program called Insights that is a tool, a very easy tool, a very friendly tool that might tell you in 4 colors how is your preference in your style of work, and how do you interact with others, and how you can communicate and work better with others through those colors and your styles of preference. So that's one of the things that I'm passionate about right now, and I am starting to work with companies and with the people. Also, doing different things in that HR field, helping other companies with different development programs, and for sure is not clear what the future looks like, but for sure is about not giving up.
That's right. Never give up. Um, some people say, as long as there is life, there is hope. and there's always that renewal. You and I are in the same position, as you say. We were both working for the same company. We're no longer doing that, but we're still having an impact on the lives of people. I want you to talk a little bit more about why should someone explore insights? Why should someone explore doing that, that self-discovery? Why should they do it?
Is that discovery, that self, first to have a self, a very good knowledge of yourself, uh,
Mhm.
understanding why do you react in a certain way, uh, because of different against different situations. Also, uh, to understand how others might react and how others perceive yourself.
Mhm.
Uh, and I remember an experience with an old boss, when we both were conscious about our styles in these insights profiles, uh, with the four colors. There is one color that is red, that is for the people that is very straightforward. It's about execution. It's about uh, very short interactions, but very decisive. Then is the blue color that is about data. It's about facts. It's about uh, all the information that is available. Then is the green color that is about the sensitiveness, is about the people, is about the concerns for others. And then is the yellow color that is about the creativity, everything is fine, everything looks great. So in that combination, we all use the four colors, but it's how we prefer to use them. I am most preferably, I use more green and then blue, the people, the concerns, and then the data.
Me
And
too. Me too.
great, that's why we get along very well. And but the people with red is actually the opposite to green. And this boss, he was very red, as most of the general managers, and but he was blue in the second line, as just
Yes.
like me. So I knew that in an interaction with him, if I bring to him data, we are having these numbers, we are going to have these savings if we implement this and that. I was going to have his attention, and we could have a productive conversation. And it happened. But I saw colleagues of mine starting to present to him, talking about, look, I can tell you all, this background is great. I love it. I love the blue, the light blue color, and your logo is great. I loved it. And if we start the conversation with him like that, we might lose him, and we
Mhm.
might not have him, because it's not the kind of things that he prefers. So it's about the, I love insights because of that, because it helps us to know each other better, and have the chance to communicate better, and to work in and to use the right colors and the right strategies in the right moments. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I can tell you by example that now in this new phase of working on myself by myself, I have to use a lot of yellow to be creative, to have uh, good flyers, good
Mhm.
displays, and to do those fancy presentations. So I have to work on my yellow to do that. But now I'm conscious about it, and
Yes.
I know when to use it.
Yes. And I think it is something that I recommend that individuals, even to understand yourself, even if you're not a leader, but in order to understand who you are and how the colors stack up, because they do stack up, right? You're all four, but you'll see the dominant ones and you know the ones that you need to work on. For example, if like you and I, we need to pivot to something different, then those that we're good at, we're already good at it. So we don't pay that much attention. So it really helps you to get to a developmental mode in terms of what do I need to do to be better at what I'm doing.
Yes.
I've seen okay, go ahead, go ahead.
No, and very quickly, and think about for all the people that are working on with your team, uh, most likely when we have a new member of the team, if the new member is very similar to us, we feel very
Comfortable.
oh, we get along, we know, it's like we have known for years. But and sometimes those teams are unbalanced because
Mm-hmm.
most of the members are very similar,
Yeah.
but the teams that are high performing teams and that can be more robust in developing the solutions are those teams that can be very balanced in the kind of profiles too. So in HR, you know that we try also to advise on the hirings for the best fit for the position and
Mm-hmm.
for the group, not necessarily the person that is more similar
Similar.
to the
Yeah.
hiring manager. So is the kind of things that I am working, and that I think if the leaders and the managers can be more conscious on that, uh, they are going to be more, they excel more in their performances as teams.
All right. So if somebody wants to do it, how do they contact you?
Well, they can contact me through my company that is called Total HR Advisors. You can find me right now. The webpage is being in on construction, but you can contact me through my email that is franmaroto at totalhra.com, or you can find me my company and myself in through LinkedIn,
Mhm.
and we can be in touch from there.
Yes, because for me, and I really want to talk about insights. Really want to talk because we have time. I'm not seeing questions. We have time. I think that within organizations, even as part of the hiring process, or as part of trying to understand an employee that you find difficult, it is important that both of you can do something like this to understand how you can balance each other out. You touched on the point where people love to work with people that are like them, but then you lose that innovation in the team. That person is going to challenge your growth, help you to critically think. I have said that employees that are challenging teach me how to be better than I was before I met them, because it is trying to get to understand them. And we spoke earlier about listening and communication and all the soft skills that are required. And I think something like this, when a leader, particular, sees themselves through their own eyes, because it's yours, it's what you say, who you are, but you're not sure until you see the report that really shows you who you are. Then you are able to understand how you need to adjust to what is going on. So, Fran, we're almost at the end of our interview, and we're going to talk now about lessons learned. That's the last part. So, we have covered life, we have covered love and loss. Thank you so much for being so open about that. And now we're going to talk about lessons learned. Of all the challenges and all the lovely things in your life, what are some of the things that you have learned?
Uh, to be flexible, to adapt to any circumstance. It's about thinking positively. It's not forgetting the past because it's important for us, but it's very important to extract the learnings from those situations, embrace those, digest those, and then move forward, and to be ready for the future. Uh, I think if any in every circumstance, if we are in a mode that we are very comfortable, that nothing is changing, nothing is happening for a long period, you have to be very worried about that, because then you are going like you need to be ready for changes. You need to be ready to change paths in very quickly, and look, from my style, that is not like something that is natural for me. In my style, going back to insights, in my green, in very green preference, the green person prefers to be very stable, to think about a decision a lot. But what I what I have learned through life, through the different situations and events, is about being ready to change, being and be very
Mm-hmm.
flexible to adapt. Think positively, to have a to think about what is your legacy as a person and as a professional. I have my daughter now that I have told her, and most of us that are parents, we are proud of our kids, but uh, she's a terrific human being. She's better than me in many phases, and I haven't done the test to her, but I know that she has a different combination of colors, but I know that she is learning from what we have lived, and I am very positive also on her future and how strong she's going to be, how prepared she is for life. Because, and I have told people, I have the blessing of having my parents with me now, still alive. Uh, I don't know what she is going through, what my daughter is going through, because she lost her mother at 15. I don't know what she feels about it and how she feels about it, but what I know is that I want to be the best partner for her in going through uh, going through life. And I think we are successful, and we are being successful, and still waiting what would be the next change to come, and then the next hit to come. So, but those are some of the learnings that I have had, and very important. Uh, Never stop learning, uh,
Mm-hmm.
because with this rush that the world is going through, you have to keep learning. It doesn't have to be just about the professional side, also in the personal side, from the small things, the very basic things. I, I told you at the beginning, my mother did all the cooking at home. When I got married, the first day that I was alone with my wife, I tried to use the rice cooker that we received as a gift. And the rice cooker is very easy to use. That first time, it was not a good rice to eat. Um, so I started by learning how by myself also how to cook rice, and now I can. I feel confident on cooking for other people.
Oh,
So it's a never stop learning and try to learn as much as possible on every topic. Um, so those are some of the learnings.
fantastic. Never stop learning. Think positive. I think those two, you said a lot, but those two, I think for many of us, the challenges that come our way require learning. That's all we need to do, right? Sometimes we need to unlearn, right? Free our brains of some of the things that are there so that we can be open to learning new things. I like that. And this positive thinking, tomorrow is going to be better if I put the work in. So that's another thing I'm learning from you, that you've got to, it's a mindset thing, but you have to put the work in as well. So your mind tells you that I can overcome this. I can go through this. I can be committed even in a difficult situation. I have the capacity to grow even in difficult situations. Thank you so much for joining us today and for
Thank you.
sharing your compelling story. I've seen
And
some comments. There are persons who are saying good conversation, inspiring conversation. They're proud of you. I think one person called you the best HR manager, and I would endorse that. You you help to build me as a leader, and right now we are in the same space, and here we are supporting each other, and that is, you were my boss, and that is another lesson, that collaboration that we had when I reported to you. I didn't feel that you were up there and I was down here. You gave me autonomy to think and to be creative, and to be innovative. And I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank you for sharing your story this afternoon. If we have no questions, maybe we're ending a little bit early, unless you
Yeah.
have some some final words to share with
Yeah.
our audience.
No, yeah, and definitely we learned together through that time. I couldn't have made it without your advice, without your knowledge, without all your great skills. So it's a lesson too for all of us to collaborate and to work together with our people. And there's maybe people in the audience that know us and knew
Mhm.
my wife and my family. There are others that have not that opportunity. So I want to show a couple of pictures here for this
Oh,
for everybody
nice.
to have a graphical image of what I was describing. And this is me and my wife.
Oh, very sweet. And you also have a
And
question. Fran, you have a question.
yeah, and sorry, and this is with my daughter a few years ago.
Oh, sweet. Thank you so much, Papa.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. So there is a question, Fran. You have another picture?
No, just those
Okay.
two.
So with the state of the world, COVID, job loss, etc., what advice would you give to someone as it relates to developing yourself presently? Where do they start?
Great question, Lydia. And I think it's about uh, developing the discipline on defining times for the different situations, for your personal things, for yourself, and for the other people that you might be responsible of too. In my case, I cannot be a good supporter of my daughter if I am not okay. So I have to take care of myself. Uh, and uh, from for example, for the COVID situation, I think it's very important with all the confinement and everything to try to find those small spaces where I can relieve stress, where I can have uh, we cannot live under constant pressure every day. So have the discipline on really defining times to renew yourself, and your man your mind and everything. If you're facing a job loss, if you're facing a personal loss, is having that time to grieve and to feel sad, but also to look for the things that inspire you. In my case, it's about having that thought that my wife is proud of me.
Thank you. Thank you. And I would say, as we close, continue to build your competence, continue to learn,
Yeah.
continue to believe in yourself, and take on challenges. That is what life is all about. And when they're thrown at you, meet them like Fran. Thank you so much, Fran, for joining us this evening with your story of life, love, loss, and lessons learned. It has been inspirational, educational, and I'm sure our audience is very appreciative of it. I want to thank our new audience from True Life Broadcasting Network and all the persons who have joined us this afternoon. Thank you so much for being a part of this program. And until next time, it's goodbye from Conversations Live.